Hello, this is Pastor Corey Sulian. Today is April 22nd, 2023. I'm sitting in my car. I just got done soul winning, and I wanted to give you the testimony and also a tip of the day. Today was a little bit different. It snowed last night, and this is springtime here in Colorado, so it's kind of unusual, and it got real icy out. And so we woke up, and there's ice all over the branches and the trees and ice in the road. And it was just like an ice storm, more or less. Now, it wasn't severe or anything like that. It didn't shut down the roads. We could still drive and all of that. But it's been overcast all day. It's just kind of a different day for springtime. And I was out soul winning for 3 hours. 3 hours before I was able to find someone to pray with. I kept finding people that either weren't interested or wouldn't answer the door. I met this one man who had a lot of questions about salvation, and we spent about 45 minutes with him, but he just believes different. He's Orthodox, and he just does not believe that salvation is instantaneous and that it's a progression over a lifetime and that someone could actually lose it. So he just believes differently. But I met this man. I got out of my truck and I was walking up to the door, and he was on the porch. I didn't even see him. He must have got out of his house just as I was pulling up, and he was smoking a cigarette. And he was just a friendly guy named Marcos. And I got to meet him, and I was talking to him. And I said, I'm a pastor out trying to meet folks, let them know about our church. He told me he's Catholic and that he goes to a Catholic church here in town, the big one, the big Catholic church. But and I said to him, I gave him my testimony, and I said, has anybody ever shown you these verses? And he said, no. And I said, can I show them to you real quick? And he said, sure. So I was able to share the gospel with him, all the verses of the plan of salvation, book of life, all of that. And I got to the end. I said, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And I said, June 15, 1980. That was the day I got saved. The preacher prayed with me. And he gave me a guideline prayer, the prayer of salvation to pray. And I prayed it, and I meant it from my heart. And I said, sir, if Jesus was willing to save you, would you be willing to ask him to? And he said, I've already done that. I said, you have? He said, yep. I said, wonderful. I said, tell me about it. And he said, well, 3 years ago, and he told me about a heartache that he was dealing with his family. And he said, I was at a moment of desperation. I was in despair. I went to the Catholic Church, and he said I was waiting for the priest to come to talk to him. And I went to I think he said it was called a consecration room. And he said, I threw myself on the floor, and I gave my life to the Lord. And I said, that's awesome. And I said, tell me what you did. Like, what did you pray? He goes, I asked God for strength. I asked God for guidance. And I just told him, my life is yours. Do with me as you wish. And I just said, that is so awesome. And then I backed up and I said, so let me explain to you how to get your name in the book of life and how a prayer of salvation works. And I took some time and I explained to him about you need to call upon Jesus and ask him to save you from going to hell and take you to heaven when you die. And he looked at me and he goes, I don't think I've ever prayed that prayer before. And I said, okay. I said, if Jesus was willing to save you, would you be willing to ask him to? And he said, yes. I said, okay, I'm going to pray with you right now. And I did. And I prayed with him, and he prayed and asked the Lord to save him. Now, what happened, though, was he had an experience. He had a decision in his life that he had made, but it was different than God's salvation, like how to be saved. And I was able to help him to understand that. Now, and I told him, I said, look, before we prayed, I said, that moment in your life 3 years ago, I believe it led you to this point right now. And now you have a chance to be saved. And I said to him, would you like to? And he said, yes. And then we prayed together. And he goes, I said, now when you prayed the prayer, did it come from your heart? And he goes, it felt different. He goes, it felt different. And I said, different in a good way or, what? And he goes, oh yeah, good way. And I said, yeah. I said, because you got saved. And I said, now you have a day of salvation. I filled out the certificate, the salvation certificate, and I gave it to him. And I put the date on it. And he was very, very grateful. Now, He said he was raised Catholic. He's 35 years of age. He said he was raised Catholic. He's been a Catholic all his life, and he's raising his 2 children as Catholic. And he said he probably is going to keep on doing that, right? So I may never get to see him in church, but this was the day that salvation came to his house, and he got saved. And I told him, I said, the brochure I gave you has all those verses that I read to you, has the prayer of salvation, and I encouraged him to read that to his wife and his 2 children so that they could be saved, and he said he would. Now, the thought I want to share with you is this. When you're witnessing to someone, they need to come to a realization that they have not been saved in order for them to be saved. So, for example, he gave his life to the Lord. He threw himself on the floor in his church, and he said, Jesus, my life is yours. Do with me as you wish, which is a good prayer. There's nothing wrong with that. And when people say things like that to me, I always say, that's awesome. That's great that you did that. I wish more people would do that. But it is completely different than when you look to Jesus and say, Lord, I know I'm a sinner. I'm headed for hell. Would you please save me and take me to heaven when I die? Now, the words a person uses is not the most important thing. The most important thing is, what are you asking Jesus to do? Now, when you soul win, you need to get them to that point where they say, I have never made that decision before, or I have never asked Jesus to save me from going to hell before. And when you get them to that point and they admit it, then it's okay. Would you like to do that? And then it's yes. People that are in denial, they've got other prayers that they prayed or other decisions that they've made, and then they say that's salvation. Well, then they're not going to get saved. Nobody ever gets saved until they first admit that they're lost, or at the very least, admit that they need to be saved. Once they admit it, that's half the battle. And once that's done, then it's a lot easier to help them to understand the need of being saved. And that's what happened today. And I just took some extra time to kind of go over it with him. But then he admitted it. He said, I have never prayed a prayer where I've asked the Lord to save me from hell. And I just said, okay, let's do that. Let's do it right now. And he did. And it was a blessing. So when you go soul winning, just keep that in mind. And hopefully that's just a thought that might help you as you try to share the gospel with someone. See someone saved today? Have a great day in church tomorrow on the Lord's Day. God bless you.